The rain in London didn't care about broken hearts. It washed over Clara as she walked aimlessly down the slick pavements, her green silk dress soaked and ruined. She had no umbrella, no coat, and nowhere to go. Her phone buzzed in her small clutch purse, a notification from the Swiss clinic confirming her mother was resting comfortably. Clara leaned against a brick wall in a quiet alley, swallowing a sob. Julian had paid the medical bills for a year in advance, so her mother was safe for now. But the thought of Julian, the look of pure, icy betrayal in his gray eyes, cut deeper than the freezing rain. He didn't believe her. He had crawled right back into his fortress of isolation. She wiped her tears, a sudden spark of anger replacing her despair. "I am not going to prison for a crime I didn't commit," she whispered to herself. Clara knew she couldn't outsmart Julian's security team on her own, but she knew the office systems better than anyone. She remembered that last Tuesday night, she hadn't been entirely alone in the office. Meanwhile, back in the penthouse, the silence was deafening. Julian sat at his desk, staring at the 5-carat emerald ring resting on the cold glass. He had the merger papers in front of him, ready to be shredded. He had won the corporate war, but the victory tasted like ash. He pulled up the digital logs again. Clara Montgomery, 11:42 p.m. The evidence was ironclad. So why did his gut feel like it was being ripped apart? Why did her screams of innocence echo in his mind? "If you won't even look for the real traitor because you're too busy hiding behind your pathetic walls of ice, then you're a coward, Julian Vance." Julian's eyes narrowed at the screen. He clicked on a deeper layer of the security logs, the server room access. Suddenly, his fingers froze. At 11:40 p.m. last Tuesday, 2 minutes before the leak occurred from Clara's account, there was a minor power fluctuation in the main building's basement. It lasted only 3 seconds. To a normal investigator, it looked like a standard system blip. But Julian was a genius for a reason. A power fluctuation in the basement meant someone had physically bypassed the mainframe using a hardware exploit. Clara didn't have the technical skill to do that. Someone had used her credentials from a terminal inside the building while she was upstairs typing his memos. Julian grabbed his phone and called his head of security. "Get the basement surveillance footage from last Tuesday. Now." "Sir, that footage was archived and encrypted this morning by the board's order," the security chief replied. "By whose order exactly?" Julian growled, a terrifying suspicion forming in his mind. "Evelyn, sir. She said it was part of the internal audit for the Sterling merger." Julian hung up, his blood turning to fire. Evelyn. The skeptical board member who had been trying to kill the merger from day one. She hadn't just leaked the contract to the press. She had actively framed Clara to destroy Julian's credibility and take over the Sterling Group. Julian stood up so fast his chair clattered to the floor. He had thrown out the only woman who had ever made him feel alive, based on a lie. He had to find her. Across town, Clara had managed to get inside a 24-hour internet cafe in a sketchy neighborhood. Using her phone's backup cloud, she opened a secondary log she kept for office supplies. As executive assistant, she ordered every piece of hardware for the building. She scrolled through the invoices from last month. There it was, a high-frequency data transmitter, disguised as a standard network router, ordered under the marketing department's budget. It was signed off by Evelyn's personal secretary. Clara gasped, quickly downloading the invoice to her phone. She had the proof. She stood up, ready to go straight to Arthur Sterling, when the bell above the internet cafe door chimed. 2 men in dark suits walked in, their eyes scanning the dingy room until they locked onto Clara. They weren't police officers. They were corporate cleanup crews. Evelyn's men. "Miss Montgomery?" one of them said, stepping forward, his hand slipping inside his jacket. "You have some documents that don't belong to you. Come with us." Clara backed away, her heart leaping into her throat as she reached the dead end of the cafe's back wall. She was completely alone.